A little psychedelic sound to begin with, and welcome to the evening shows. I'm your host, Stephen Poon. This is our 25th episode of Spotlight Dialogue series, organized by a special interest group in circular economy from Integrated Sustainability and Urban Creativity Center, acronym as ISUC, also known as ISUC, at Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation, APU. What a good evening to all the audience out there. We are live on Facebook now, and we are live on YouTube too. A big wave here to all the audience out there. At this time, around now, in the virtual room with me are the regular team of ISUC, as well as student services and marketing. Coming up on the dialogue, as always, lots of interesting stuff on the topic of today. Sustainable solution innovators manufacturing with ESG in mind. We have Kelvin Su this evening, certified chemist and technologist. He has had the privilege of serving the Malaysian government and mentoring startups in various programs since 2015. He is passionate about delivering top-notch solutions through technology and automation, as well as FBIO research, which is a functional biodiversity, manufacture and distribute food supplement, cosmetic, household, and medical devices Class A, Class B, and Class C. Here we go. Please welcome technologies chemist Kelvin Su.
Hi, Dr. Stephen. Thanks for the kind introduction, and thanks for having me today.
Hi, Kelvin. How you doing? Are you stable?
Yeah, not too bad. I think it's quite
started?
stable. Should be okay. Not raining yet.
Okay. So how was your day? How was your day?
That's good.
I heard
Very
that
busy,
I remember you
engaging.
told me that you have been really hectic today.
Yeah, we've been very busy
So,
talking to the
any good
key
outcome for
opinion leaders.
today?
Yeah. The new metrics
So-
for measuring key opinion leaders came out, so it's gonna have some new reviews on the products.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, new matrix coming out. So, would you like to share a little bit more? Is it possible to disclose a little bit what has
Oh,
been
for sure.
any exciting of the matrix?
I think a lot of times people, especially businesses, are looking to figure out,
Hmm.
what this key opinion leader is all about. Some of them are asking for money, and we're all trying to figure out,
Oh, yeah.
are they legitimate? How do we measure the metrics on whether people are engaged with them or not? And after a bit of calculation and surveying and going through around about 100 key opinion leaders, we realized that the percentage is at 1%.
Mhm.
Anything less than 1% is considered a fake or fraudulent account. And anything that's performing above
Mhm.
1% in terms of social engagement, we'll be
Mm.
looking at doing monetary
Mhm.
rewards and bonuses and stuff like that. So that's what I've been busy with today.
Mhm. Okay. Do you think it's going to be an impact to the manufacturing sector? This
For
measurement,
sure.
this new matrix.
This matrix, I mean, purely on this, no, probably not. But if we are speaking in terms of purely just
Mm.
manufacturing, the perspective of manufacturing, there's so many things which sustainability covers, and it goes beyond
Mhm.
just the environment. It goes into
Mhm.
governance as well, transparency, and I think a simple thing as even generating quotes within the hour is what I would
Mhm.
attribute to better transparency in terms of negotiating with the customer.
Okay, Kelvin, thank you so much for joining us. I think for this podcast, this spotlight dialogue, let's get started to set the scene before we get into the dialogue. Which is today we're going to talk about manufacturing, especially how does it embed into ESG in mind. Okay, let's set the scene before we get into the dialogue. Okay, I've done a little bit of findings actually, a little bit of research here. Probably I can share with you. Then how we just open up this conversation. Corporation have been grappling with the business roundtable all important during the 2019 statement of intent to move from financial shareholder primacy to broader stakeholder capitalism, and how to
Mhm.
translate these goals into practical, measurable, and trackable ESG efforts in their businesses. According to the Bloomberg Intelligence, global ESG asset could exceed 53 trillion by 2025. So in the current context, I believe every company should address as they embed an ESG strategy. If corporations fail to address these practices, there is a risk that they will be overtaken by rivals and at the extreme could even cease to exist. So, Kelvin, in your current practice, is ESG undermining your company competitiveness?
No, I think ESGs are definitely moving forward in terms of looking for that competitive edge is very important for ESGs. A lot of companies will definitely face short-term shortfalls in trying to implement the ESGs, costs, labor, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, most of our employees are Malaysians, if not all. So we don't face the thing about foreign labor and stuff like that, which is actually very expensive.
Mhm.
We are more
Mhm.
focused into the environment, sustainability of products, and into transparent governance is where we're moving into. So we offer these to our customers. Not all customers appreciate it, but it's something that we offer. And I think that gives us a big edge towards export markets, such as our Singapore clientele. And they do
Mhm.
appreciate and they can afford to pay for company which is more forward out looking like us for this. So we look into sustainable packaging, biodegradable packaging made from wheat, decomposes within about a year after it gets disposed and exposed to a lot of water, stuff like that. Definitely.
Okay, Kelvin, would you like to tell us about does driving the ESG agenda mean sacrificing company returns?
I would say depends because I mean, if you're speaking from the perspective of a manufacturer,
Oops, I think we lost Kelvin. Never mind. We're gonna stay for a bit. I think Kelvin will be back in a bit.
I can hear everything. I don't know why it just does just
Kelvin.
cuts out. Yeah,
You were
I can hear you
frozen,
talking as
Kelvin.
well. Yeah, I can hear everything, but I can't speak and stuff. It's so funny. But
Okay, never
coming
mind.
back,
Let's go on.
yeah,
Go on, please. Okay, never mind. I know that there's a
right,
little bit of cloudy out there, so we can get a little
something
bit
not going well.
with internet connection is
Yeah.
not that good. But never mind. Let's go ahead, man.
Yeah,
Kelvin.
so I think from the perspective of a manufacturer, short-term gains will be
Mm,
affected. And having customers
mm,
which appreciate environment sustainability goals, there's not
mm,
many because today's market is very price sensitive, especially with the
mm,
weakening of the ringgit. I think our Singaporean customers like it. And of course, when we go towards large customers such as hotel chains to propose our products, they like to see,
mm,
a recycle program or sustainability
mm,
program, and transparency available
mm.
to them is what they want to relate their brand to. So that's how we look at it.
Okay, Kelvin, how are you in navigating ESG trade-offs? Oh, Kel-
It's
Kelvin,
weird. I can hear
Kelvin, we lost.
everything. I can hear everything, and it's just like the video is like spinning for a bit. That's very bizarre. I found that
Oh
very
well,
curious.
technology anyway. Okay,
Yeah, that's
let,
technology.
I think we probably will get there along the way until
Yeah, we
until
will.
the whole
I hope
1 hour.
so. Yeah. So,
Okay, Kelvin, yes,
yeah,
yes, go on then, Kelvin. I think you heard about the question I was asking. How are you navigating ESG trade-offs?
yeah. So I think today, to navigate it in a
Mm,
cohesive way for a manufacturer is the first easiest thing to overcome is sustainable packaging and reduction of
mm-hmm,
energy emissions. So
mm-hmm,
we offer to our customers in the beginning, anyone who can afford it, uh, recyclable packaging. We talk about cosmetic packaging, bottles, and all that. That's all offered. Glass is is another option to our customers. We also prefer to manufacture in glass. It's
mm-hmm,
easier to handle in terms of sterility, and the products
mm-hmm,
are cleaner.
mm-hmm.
And that's what we do offer to our customers. As a brand holder, because we offer these packaging, we're using the packaging ourselves. So we have started to use,
Kelvin,
to use
yep.
yeah, it's back. It's like in and out. To use recycled bottles when we refill their soaps or conditioners and hand washing products at the hotels and at the gyms. So I think those are the small steps that we're taking to move ahead in this area and space.
Kelvin, in your point of view, how does ESG change due diligence?
Definitely, the due diligence has changed because in terms of the mission of the company also has changed a fair bit as well, with ESGs in mind. There's a high more, I would say, if we look at it in the very Chinese way, we're always looking for profit. But if we're looking at it from the perspective of long-term sustainability or the competitive
Mhm.
edge, ESGs is definitely something that we need to move in the forehead. As
Mm.
you know, I'm a believer that we can only get better, and someone is more desperate to implement and run it at probably eventually at the same cost, right? So we
Well,
rather be ahead of the game. Yeah.
but I think Kelvin, this is not the Chinese way. I think in common practice, a lot of people running the business is doing the same way. I think it sounds really funny.
Yeah.
Actually, this is the Chinese way. What does it mean by the Chinese
Well,
way?
Chinese, I would say, the 60-year-old way. If you're 60, what's this? You're
Your
spending
own.
more money on this and the environment and stuff. No need lah. Just make profit first, right? I
Okay.
think consumers today show are more aware of the environment. Yeah, obviously.
Okay. Should you need to become a public benefit corporation in that case?
No, I mean definitely not. No, no, we don't need to be. I think private companies, especially being a manufacturer, um,
Mm-hmm.
will be looking at ESGs. And at the end of the day, today in the weakening ringgit, export is where we are looking at for sure. And to get more export, we need to implement ESGs. It really gives you the edge, and you can get the higher
Mm-hmm.
margins. From Europe and from Singapore. The currency so much bigger there. So they really like we need to get the ESGs rolling, and that's our advantage today for sure.
What is your point of view of the differences between the public listed company and the non-public listed company? How do they which is a respond to the ESG practices, which is I think probably they have the different. I think for the public listed company, they need to be answerable to the public because of the money they are using. So varies, which is the other way around. The non-public company, non-public listed company, they don't have to do that. This is just my point of view. I'm not sure whether this is really correct how the way I say it. So would you like to, which is tell us the differences between these two?
I mean, that means this is purely my own opinion, right, and my own observation. Public listed companies, because they're more or less armed to
Kelvin, we lost you again. A little bit of technicality here.
I'm back again. I can hear everything. It's very funny, right? Yeah. So,
would you like to repeat, please? Thank you.
Yeah, that's for sure. Apologize to our viewers. The difference, in my opinion, between a public listed company and a privately run one, and I think you've got it on the ball on point as well, Dr. Stephen, is the sense of the money, right? So they are forced to implement this ESG program and sustainability and environment and governance. Of course, the governance is great. They're already doing it. It has to be transparent. They can't do monkey business, right? Technically. But are they really implementing the ESGs? That's a question that we need to ask ourselves. And why is it relevant and why is it important? Now, if the company is private listed and exporting to Europe or manufacturing for large European companies, for sure they have to follow through because it's a requirement, and it is probably going to go beyond what the ESG is required today in terms of a bare minimum. If you're talking about just a day-to-day publicly listed company which is selling within ASEAN, they might not be fully following through on the ESG. They might just be trying to scrape by with what is.
Okay. Yeah, I think having the same issue again, Kelvin. Okay. I think. Let me see. I think Kelvin has a problem with internet connection, obviously. So we're gonna wait for a bit. Wait for him to come back.
Oh, Stephen, I'm back already.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
using my phone now. I took the opportunity to use my phone, so it should be okay. I don't know what's wrong with my home Wi-Fi. It's weird.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Are you living on the hill?
I don't know. I'm living in a condo in the city where there's a crazy traffic jam on Federal Highway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
usually, when you live on the hill, you will get the kind of, which is quite a dodgy connection. Sometimes you get connected, then you don't get connected. So
It's weird
yeah.
because it's weird. The access point's right below my laptop.
But that's okay actually. But I have a problem actually because I live not really on the hill. I live by the hill, so then I always get that kind of issue actually. So that's the reason I always stay on the campus. So stay
well,
on the
I
campus.
think I'm using my
I think it's
mobile.
much more
You
easier.
should be okay. I'm using the mobile. Should be
Okay,
fine already.
okay, Kelvin.
Back on track.
Let us come back to the our dialogue. You were
Yes.
talking about the differences between the public listed and the non-public listed. the differences. Of course, you're talking about because the dollar and cents, so they have the compliance because they have the international trading partner. So
Mm,
and so what about this non-public listed company? I believe some of the non-public listed company also having their international trading as well, but in a different perspective, of course.
mm,
But
mm,
what I see the differences between, this is just my view. Public listed company usually because they need to be answerable to the public of the money they use because of the share. Because all this they need to report back to the like probably to the share market like Pusa. You
mm.
know, so but still, the non-public listed company, they also have this kind of international trading. They also need to be complied with those are the ESG requirement, because I think a lot of European company, they're really fast about all this, which is how the way we respond to sustainability nowadays.
Yeah.
What is your point of view on that?
I mean, for this, I mean, it's definitely not wrong. Um, this type of requirement in terms of ESGs, and I think you forgot the Japanese are actually really big in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our Japanese customers require very stringent ESGs to be implemented. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with definitely going there. Private companies, of course, when you serve large companies, you have to do it. But if we look at it the perspective of moving forward into the future, um, everyone will be moving into this direction to consider and to put into consideration more sustainable packaging in larger quantities. And once it becomes mainstream, it will be the norm to be what will be offered to customers, right? So it's best to be ahead of the game than to be behind the game. Today, sustainable
Mm-hmm.
packaging still comes at a premium.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's look at the global aspect here. How do you develop global approach to ESG in your current company, especially?
I think if we're comparing to other companies on the global scale, of course we are much further away from some more established players in the States or in European Union in terms of the ESG implementation and commitment. A lot of them have gone into green energy, full automation, reduction in carbon emissions. And there's many ways to calculate it. I think their calculation methodology is quite crazy in terms of trying to calculate even how much a person eats and how much carbon
Mm,
footprint they contribute in your factory. We are far from that for sure. Um, I don't know. I feel it's a double-edged sword. Reducing the
why?
number of people that work for you means that your labor force is smaller. This creates more unemployment, right? In terms of
Mm-hmm.
low-skilled jobs, higher skilled jobs, whereas will increase because you need you need engineers and technicians who are more well versed in automation, automatic machinery and whatnot. So I think there's two ends of the story here that comes into play. My opinion is, in the Malaysian context, we are a population of 30 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Automation can only come about if we do have large export in our customer base. If we're just serving the Malaysian population, it might not even make financial sense for us to go fully automatic. And if you were to calculate between automating manufacturing line for, I mean, what we make are like sachets, powders, cosmetics, versus using a base where there is manpower involved, it might not calculate favorably. It might end up being almost the same. We might not be reaching the tipping point where we create enough product to make it more financially, to make it make sense financially, and make it make sense in the sense of carbon calculation.
Do you think because of the cost? I think currently because of this implementation need to be taken place, it's not that easy because of the cost. And of course, it really depends on how you maneuver around all this. You can have a reduction of the manning, but in the meantime, while you have an investment from another side, you have all this technological advancement come on board, which is
Mm,
I
mm,
think it could probably will pay back in due time.
mm.
So, or is it because of other reasons? Because you think that it's not really viable at this current stage?
I think you hit the word correctly. It's the amortization back, and I think you can look at it even in the sense of solar power. The solar
Mm,
power movement is big. And of course, there's a few angles on why the government is pushing for solar power reduction, right? I mean, solar power increase to reduce. Number one is to reduce the load on our power grid. The calculations sound good, reduce the consumption of coal and fuel and whatnot, and it works out nice for it. But you look at it from the other perspective, to create these solar panels, the deterioration of the battery, and even the sun does the realistic calculation on how much sunlight we really do have, how much real dependency will it reduce from the power grid is another question which has yet to be fully answered. And you talk about the amortization of these things, they're looking at minimum 10 years before you can start to see the first cost saving coming back out. And that's with most of the investment plans for just solar itself.
Okay, Kelvin, how do you build an ESG framework that is future-proofed for tomorrow's environmental impact?
I'm not the best person to answer this for sure. But I think from a perspective as a Chinaman businessman, in my situation, where we are not a large conglomerate, we're not a large company churning in hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, where you have a full-time sustainability officer in place, have a sustainability team. It's just purely as a businessman, is we're going to look at what the low-hanging fruits first, what we can easily do ourselves, and what by doing this does it give us a competitive edge which we can sell to our customers. So the easiest things to do first is, of course, hire local, train local, if possible, where available. Now it's a tough feat. No one wants to do the hard work, right? So how are you going to do that? There's people pushing for TVET, there's people pushing for training or customized training programs, upskilling and stuff like that. I think as well, that's very much into the work environment and the culture of the company. Then again, following up from there is go into sustainable packaging, reduce waste, go into transparency of your governance. And I think we have extended further. We realized that to really push the ESG promise that we want to pass on to our customers, we had to create our own brand, because we had to walk the walk ourselves in terms of coming to the customers themselves. So being more transparent on our costing, being transparent and clear to our customers on what our promises to them is what we started to do. Encourage them to use recycled packaging, encourage them to go for bigger packs instead of smaller packs. It's a direction that we have been pitching. And there's only so much pitching we can do to our customers that contract manufacture with us. But when we have our own brand, we can control it as well. So at least when we show it to our export markets and to brands who are interested, they can see that what we are saying is what we are practicing as well.
How do you vet company performance of ESG?
Oh, that's a question that is very, very subjective. And I think it depends on how deep you want to go into the ESG, right? Some people go heavy on carbon credits, they go into energy calculations, they go into how transparent is information available to them, what is their audit process. A lot of other companies require third-party accredited bodies to audit. Now, that's a problem in itself. Third-party auditing bodies are very, very expensive for ESGs right now. They're around about 100,000 plus to get audited, right? And it's not a cheap feat to get their chop or stamp of approval that you've done this ESG to a certain degree correctly.
At this point of time, yes, you're right, actually.
Yeah.
And how should corporations navigate the ever-changing landscape of ESG, in your point of view?
Corporations, I think, I can only speak personally how we would navigate the ESG landscape is. If we look at it as ESG as being the competitive advantage for our export market, and always keeping an eye on what's changing and evolving and what's becoming more mainstream in terms of costing for implementing a certain type of E or S or G. We'll be not at the front all the time, but we'll be slightly behind the leader. And once it just before it hits mainstream, we're there as well. I don't think in my perspective, I'm a company that's able to steer or be the big changer like a Nestle or Unilever. We're going to do this, everyone has to follow. We're not that. But what we can do is try to follow suit to a certain degree. Yeah.
That's a good point, actually, you made. Okay, Kelvin, Just as ESG is an inextricable part of how you do business, its individual elements are themselves intertwined. For example, social criteria overlap with environmental criteria and governance when companies seek to comply with environmental laws and broader concerns about sustainability, so to speak. The focus is mostly on environmental and social criteria, but as every leader knows, governance can never be isolatedly separate. Indeed, excelling in governance calls for mastering not just the letter of laws, but also their spirit, such as getting in front of the violation before they occur, or ensuring transparency and dialogue with regulators instead of systematically submitting a report and letting the results speak for themselves. So, how exactly does a strong ESG proposition make innovation sense from improving manufacturing processes?
I think that question is an interesting question in the sense of the ESGs are very different for every company, right? And
Mhm,
there's an environment, sustainability, and then the governance. Sustainability can be P&L, just purely profit and loss, right?
mhm,
There's nothing wrong with that. And you might be lacking in the environment, you might be lacking in the governance. I think every company is at a different stage of their ESG in that sense. And if you were to say there should be laws or there should be policy in place, which encourages companies to move in a certain direction, I think these things should
mhm,
be taken with caution. And the reason being is, in the perspective of Malaysia, Malaysia is an SME-based country. Most companies are maybe generating a couple of million in general. They're not churning out hundreds of millions, most of them. Right? So a policy which is very pro to large corporates would stifle the smaller companies, right? Because the implementation cost is high, depending on what they're trying to push ahead in which part of the ESG framework they're going for. I think if you were to really have a big objective in the ES and Gs, right? I am a strong believer it's about education. It's about
mhm,
teaching people about what it's all about. Our
mhm,
children, the teenagers, and at university. And from there on, people themselves, when they come to work, they come up with ideas, they innovate ideas at work. They'll start to make the change. I think purely trying to drive by policy is a dangerous place to be. And I don't and it requires significant thought for sure.
But there is no so-called the fixed framework in the common practice at this point of time, because I think a lot
Mhm.
of big corporations they run their own so-called practices, they run their own framework. Do you think
Mhm.
that there will be like in the end they become influx because the framework is not really consistent? So do you think that I think government which is responsible for that, because since they have talked about this which is in the 12 Malaysian plan. So have talked about this sustainability SDG, and then we're gonna go forward to the ESG practices. So, but there is no such a so-called someone to come up with. Okay, there's a torch we need to follow. But
I
there's a
think,
lot
yeah,
of like black and white about it. So, what actually is it gonna be affect your uh practices, especially when you're dealing with international trading?
I think for us we have to move with what's required with our customers, right?
Mm, mhm.
I think that in itself shows the hunger of the company is important. If you're hungry, you know what to do. You get it done. You look for ways to implement what's required. You go through with the requirement of what your customers demand. I think in the perspective of governance, in terms of government trying to do a
Mhm,
policy, it will make more sense if they act as the auditing body, because every company is different. Every company is in a
mhm,
different stage of its life. Every company has a different ability for the E, S, and G. Right? A company could be great at sustainability, but terrible at environment and terrible at governance. But it doesn't mean they can't achieve better slowly with time. It cannot be overnight. We're going to run everything, right? Whole company, everyone. It's like when I took over Furley from my late father. There's so much legacy problems in the company. There's a lot of old timers present. They refuse to change. They refuse to learn. They don't want to
Yeah,
change.
that's
Why should I automate it? Why are you coming to disturb my life? I'm enjoying myself. I come to work 9, I
yeah.
leave at 5 and 6. Why do you want to put software in place? Why do you want to monitor more metrics? Why do you want to automate the measurement of temperature and pressure and humidity? Why you give me no job? Stuff like that can't happen overnight, right?
Why you take away my jobs?
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
complaining.
And then let me retire. Why you want to disturb this? It's definitely a problem. And a lot of my friends in
Oh,
factories all face the same problem, right? Even for me,
okay.
we want to implement a new formulation system, which automates calculation and formulations of products. It has
Mm.
resistance. People are like, "Why are you changing from Excel? We like Excel. It's easy to use. It's easy to adjust." I said, "That's precisely why."
Yeah.
And it takes time to change, right? With all these things. So
Yeah, it's true.
everyone,
Actually, yeah, especially the Gen X, isn't it? Before the Gen X, the baby
yeah,
boomer. Oh, these are the
yeah,
people really boom.
yeah,
they're very insistent. That's the way. Okay.
yes, yes,
Okay, Kelvin. Let's open up our dialogue to question from the audience. Let's check on that. Well, we have quite a bit of questions here actually. Well, they have a really
really. I can't.
interest
Oh,
on the
wow, there's so
people.
many questions. I didn't press it.
Which is good. I
Yeah,
think let's go for the first one from my student actually. ESG
yeah.
regulation and standards vary by region and industry. How do you navigate the complex landscape of ESG compliance and reporting? And how do you keep up with over evolving requirements? Yeah, this is for my student. Yeah,
I think we touched on this a bit earlier, right?
yeah.
The compliance
Can
and
you get a little
standards
bit
and
more
the audits.
elaborative now? Yeah.
Yeah. So we are blessed for a few reasons. Number one, we're in Malaysia. So a lot of the strong, the big boys which are pushing the ESG program, they give you a bit of tolerance and leeway. They give you a bit of time to implement
Mm,
it through. Just as long as they see the plan. They do send their own audit team. They have their own audit team to see through on their program and make sure everything tallies and going for a certain type
mm,
of certification. And they're fair.
mm,
They don't expect you to get this certification when the order is so small, right? So everyone knows that for these type of orders, especially to Europe, to the large MNCs, it needs to be done, and
mhm,
it's a year-on-year improvement. It's never stagnant in that sense of evolving requirement. There's always something to be done better. There is no perfect
mhm.
company in ESG, right?
Yeah. You're right, actually. I think that was the which is important. There is no, as I said, there's no framework, so everyone run their own framework, which is everything can be possible in the end. So there's no definition by saying that this is not, this is yes, But anyway, as long as it makes sense. But go back to the roots here, which is fundamentally like what you said, Kelvin. It's about money. So how can I make money? Even though I go
Yeah.
for ESG, I think that's a really this is the reality actually. So
Yes.
not especially in the Asian mentality, they're not going to do that because
Yeah.
of losing money. But of course,
Yeah.
they try to comply with whatever, especially in the current stage. I think the more we urbanize, right, I think the more this kind of requirement will come on board, especially with the digitization behind that. So this is what
Mm.
make the things changing. We are evolving as well. Okay, earlier on you was talking about stringent. Actually, I think there's a question also from the same student. How do you ensure the ethical treatment of workers throughout your entire supply chain, especially in regions where labor standards may be less stringent or where exploitation is a concern? I think that's a quite
I
a
mean,
good
this
question. Yeah.
question is a good question, but it's really
Yeah.
extending how far along your ESG plan is at, what stage
Hmm.
you're at. Are you at the stage of evaluating your suppliers? How far down the
Hmm.
track are you required to go? And today, with a few of my friends as well in manufacturing, yes, they are
Hmm.
looking at this, but it hasn't reached the stage of some of the input raw material that we use to make compounds. We are required to evaluate them, and a few reasons come about from there. First is there are alternatives. We can take from Europe, we can take from countries which do comply fully, but are you willing to pay the price as a customer? And that's where it ends. That's where the conversation starts to change. So
Yeah,
with
yeah.
time, they'll
I
try to
think.
push it along. Yeah, let's say it's very simple. Yeah, we can get it. Yeah. All the people are happy and stuff, and correct. You know, we are paying them fairly. It's not even that. You know, I'll tell you a bit of an example of what I found out, because we don't have foreign labor in our company, but those that have foreign labor, they have to pay all the money back to them. You know, the amount of money they pay to come here, the money they have paid to their agent to secure a job here, the company has to pay them back, all of it. You know, it's not an easy feat. It easily double folds your cost of operation that year. Or if you spread over 5 years, you know, there's easily 20-30% additional on labor costs because of your compliance with the ESGs, right? So customers must be willing to pay as well. For the right price, you can get the right thing, right? And I think if we were to say, you know, we should follow fully, ESGs do allow you to slowly move into there. It's not an overnight, you know, we need everything to check all the boxes, right?
Okay, let's move on. Yeah, let's move on to another questions from the audience. How do you address the potential trade-offs between profitability and sustainability in your manufacturing operation? I think this is the question also in furtherance of earlier on we talked about that, which is I think this audience wanted to know more from you. Yeah. What's your take on it?
I mean, my take is as I discussed with you before, right? Not everyone appreciates the sustainability part of their product.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Yeah. So we just don't offer it to them. Simple. If you don't want it, you don't get it. You get the cheaper stuff, right? We can offer it to you, but I can't force you to pay for it. I can't force you to change it, right? But we have it on offering. And the first step is to offer it. If it's offered, then they know. In the sense of when the competition starts to do it, hey, I actually want it as well. When the big boys start to do it, I also want it as well. So we just have to make sure that the offering is available. It's going to be very hard to say, hey, you should give me an additional 1 ringgit or 50 cents per product because your product will biodecompose in a year and has a shorter lifespan and everything. It sounds all wrong for them.
Well,
Right.
it really depends on the interpretation and the mindset as well. Some people don't think that way. Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, our Singapore customers appreciate it. They like it. And you
Yeah,
know,
it's
that's
true.
why we're getting more
Actually,
Singapore business. Yeah. You know, they
it's
can
true.
afford it, and that's what they believe. So we offer that to them, and we try to focus on that.
Okay, Kelvin, let's go for the same audience. The next question: how do you manage the energy consumption of your operation, and what strategies are in place to transition to renewable and clean energy sources? This is good,
For
actually.
us,
I like the question.
I mean, it's a good question. We're very lucky. We don't use that much power. Our biggest power
Mm,
consumption is our aircon. So I think if we were to
mm,
move further into power reduction, it could be solar. But based on our
mhm,
calculations,
mhm.
solar doesn't make financial sense for us. It doesn't save us enough money
It could
to
cost more
invest in
to fix
solar.
that.
Yeah, it's going to cost us more to put the damn solar panel
Yeah, yeah.
than
It
to save
costs more
the
for
power.
installation. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't reached that magic number where we should save power in the sense of
Mm,
doing the carbon calculation there. Most of our equipment is pneumatic, so we're using a lot of compressed air.
mhm,
So I mean, we're not there. I don't think it's on my priority list for energy.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, but just a side sharing here. I have discussed with some of the which is a building construction sector of all this professional. They also highlighted the coming futures of most of the building will be built that will attach to the solar panel automatically. So there will
Mm.
be like because of the all these climate change issue is one of the reasons because they need to make some changes the way how they build the building. So but I think there will be if this is going to be materialized, I think uh, solar panel will become cheaper because it become the masses, everybody using it. So I think it's one of the reasons why the insulation today for the solar panel is so expensive, because it's not really so-called as part it's a really requirement, but it's an option. That's the reason. If an option, right, then it become expensive. So yeah, but if it become compulsory, right, then everyone needs to own it, right? Then probably I think the manufacturing process will be different, and I think the making cost will be different as well. So this is all about is which is how many people using it. So I think demographics is important. It's come to this point. Do you think so?
I think that's a good. It actually came up with a good idea and it's a good situation. I think the first ones the government should attack are the developers when they build
Mm,
new condominiums and to force them to build solar panels and build a
mm,
build a storage bank downstairs. And I think if you
mm.
didn't know, whenever they build condominiums and build large development areas, they are forced to build a substation. So there's
Mhm.
actually substations at the bottom of most condominiums, and they act as backup for TMB. I only know this because I talk to my developer friends, but I'm pretty sure if they wanted to roll this out, it would be rollable out. And that, as you said, as the demand increases, the price is driven down. Just makes it more
Yeah,
cost
yeah,
effective, and the numbers will tally, right?
yeah, uh,
And that would be one
yeah.
easy place to attack.
I think is it exactly the same, just like the current movement, or how the government pushing this EV, So although we don't have so much of charging station around, so this is something we need to think about that. Okay, for all those are the professional. So I think that this is also one of the movement you can see there is a top down decision that need to push forward. So if the solar panel becomes in that kind of landscape, right, I think that will be great too. I think this will be different. Then we talk about renewable energy, and the energy sector will be changing. How the way they respond to all the energy consumption will be different as well. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Can you provide insight into the economic feasibility and payback periods of the sustainable manufacturing initiative you have undertaken?
Yeah, I mean that. I think that question is probably targeted towards very heavy capex related requirements for sustainability in terms of environment and stuff like that, right? But the
Mhm.
beauty of the way we have approached it is we have started to look for immediate gains. So we are offering reduced packaging, we reduce waste, which are more immediate. If you're looking for paybacks, the
Mm,
most biggest ones is of course your energy. If you're even looking at
mhm,
automation is a very easy calculation to calculate. How much money you put in, and how many more years am I gonna have to wait until I
mm,
get profit to pay the higher
mhm,
purchase back out, right? The calculation is not
mhm,
complicated. The bigger the order, the faster the faster you pay it back. But if you're talking about
mhm,
energy, on average energy, as what we're discussing, the average is around 10 years for just
mhm,
solar panel, doing solar panels, right? If you're talking about labor for us, we have always employed Malaysians, but whenever we speak to other factories who have employed
mhm,
foreigners, and it's a double-edged sword because I think Malaysian visas for foreigners, there's a limit. I think it's capped at 10 years or something, and they can't come back. I
mhm,
don't know, it's 10 years or
mhm,
20 years or something like that, and they can't come back. So they say within about 5 years, and then after the fifth year, then it's profitable for them in terms of calculating from employees per output basis for
mhm.
production workers. Yeah.
Okay, the same audience here, and this audience also asking the same, which is the next question. How do you balance short term and how do you balance short term financial constraint with long term sustainability goals?
I think the question answers itself. If you don't have the money for the long-term sustainability goal, you're gonna put it on hold. It's about survival first versus
Yeah,
the longer
straightforward,
goal,
isn't it?
right? I
Yeah.
think if there's abundance of money, you can do your long-term sustainability goal, but you must have an objective on who you're going to sell it to.
Okay, good. Another question is quite thoughtful question here. How do you address the issue of water usage in your manufacturing processes, especially in regions with water scarcity? And what steps are taken to minimize water waste and pollution?
Oh, good question. We're paying
Yeah,
commercial rates
this
for
is
water.
this is quite a thoughtful question. Yeah.
Yeah. Water is not free for us; we pay for it, so it comes at a price.
Mm.
What we do is even at night we switch off water. We don't on the water at night because of a few reasons. Number one is the pump runs continuously at night, so it saves power.
Mm.
And number two is the water is not wasted. Sometimes they will be pumping into tank for no reason, and then they might go into overrun, and you might have spillage and whatnot. And that's very simple. The Chinaman way is I save money, I save price, I save cost. You know, but if you look at it in the perspective of initiatives to reduce the amount of water you consume in a production setting, today it will be tough because we are required to wash everything every day, right? Unless the more the solution is the more you dilute the problem in with water, the less likely it will come back in terms of even cleaning. So you can use cleaning products, and when you use cleaning products, then you might be using solvents, you might be using acids and whatnot. It might affect the environment as well in that sense. So the other question is, do you need to recycle the water? In our perspective, do we need to? No, our discharge is actually quite low. It's quite low. We don't use that much water.
Okay. We could go for the same audience as well, and he also asking, how do you ensure that your corporate leadership and the decision-making processes align with ESG principle, and what measures are in place hold leaders accountable for ESG performance?
So I think if you look at companies who really focus on pushing the ESGs and like B certified, for example, it's part of their mission and vision as well.
Mhm.
It's part of their mandate. So it's hard to avoid. And if you're looking for that competitive edge all the time and you're following through with your major customers, you have no choice. Your top management have no choice. They have to do it. There is no like, oh, I can do a bit, I cannot do a bit. No, you cannot fail the audit. You have to do it, right?
Okay, let's come back to my student questions here. How do you engage with civil society, organization, non-government organization, NGO, and advocacy groups that may have different aggressive goals? How do you balance their expectation with your own commitments?
Why would I care about it?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why? What's the reason? So I think, Dr. Stephen, you also know I used to work for government, right? So
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
two ends
yeah.
of it. If
Mhm,
if the advocacy group or that organization has a benefit to me,
mhm,
I'll get myself
mhm,
involved in it. I'll start to
mhm,
sponsor. I'll start to penetrate the committee. Maybe even become secretary or go towards treasury or becoming someone in the controlling part of the committee, and then align it to what I want it to happen to lobby, which is what everyone does anyway. So the question is, why do I have to listen to them?
mhm. Okay, there's a little technical questions here. How do you foresee the role of carbon capture and utilization, which is CCU,
Hmm.
technologies in transforming manufacturing process, and how are you exploring their integration into your operation?
I haven't seen the relevancy of carbon capture for our manufacturing industry. I think it's very, very into the energy sector for carbon capture.
Mhm,
If I were to just think about it purely about manufacturing, right? We are
mhm,
using power, it's burning energy, it's releasing carbon dioxide and whatnot into the air. And then you want to
mhm,
capture it back and then bring it back down to the ground and then hopefully photosynthesize it or something, or maybe make it back into petrochemical for you. The technology itself, from what I've read, it's still at its infancy. There is the net energy required to modify this carbon back into something usable does not tally yet. The laws of thermodynamics are very hard to overcome. It's in
mhm,
carbon dioxide, and you want to make it into food. I think the most effective way eventually is through photosynthesis of a plant. If it's not, you have to use energy to break it and reassemble it. It's
Okay.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, the calculation has to make sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
Kelvin. Let's come back to our dialogue. Thanks for the audience.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of great questions from the audience, and mostly come from my students. While I never thought about that. My student can ask really such a high quality question, which is good. I'm
Definitely.
very pleased.
Good quality.
Okay, all right. Kelvin, manufacturers define ESG value proposition. Businesses seeking to advance beyond checking the box on ESG will need to articulate their value proposition or the reason for investing in the endeavor. For example, this involves identifying their primary stakeholders, both external and internal, and determining what is most important to them. You may ascertain the degree of the commitment that the business is willing to make. So, Kelvin, is your objective to minimize or eliminate regulatory, activist stakeholder, or legal intrusion in your business?
Legal intrusion in what sense? What is legal?
Like,
What
for
do you mean by
instance,
legal intrusion?
like things is not really like under the compliance of what is supposed to be. So therefore, they will take it as a kind of action which is upon the thing that you consider not really comply with that. But although you think that yes, you are, so then it becomes a lot of all this kind of like conflict. So, but of course, there's no framework. So because it's really up to all these legal to think about what they think is right. So sometimes it's not really which is blended in together. So what is your point on that?
Yeah, I think you hit it correct. So if that's the case, for me, if we were to see it in the perspective of a manufacturer today, the movement of, as I keep mentioning, right, we look at ESGs as a way to move forward, as a way to get the competitive edge, and with this mindset, we focus on customers who understand the value of it, and it's part of their branding. It's part of their message to their customers, right? So that would actually set ahead in terms of the type of people we deal with. I strongly believe there must be a balance, right? People must be willing to pay an X amount for something, especially if the cost is high now to implement. It doesn't come for free today. This type of governance and sustain. I mean, governance maybe you could do it, but environment and sustainability, no. It's coming at a price, right?
Okay. In furtherance of that, do you want to get access to green funding by providing that your organization has a strong program of ESG integration, and are you aligned with their investment process?
I mean, the green funding we are not really entitled because we don't bring anything green per se. Yeah, we heard, but yes, nothing to do with us. Maybe solar panel grant, matching grant or something. I guess that's as far as I can see the green initiative. They got the IR 4.0 and stuff like that as well, but we did the calculation. We don't hit the quantum to warrant for us to invest in it. You
know. Okay. Kelvin, in your practice, right, is your objective to build a long-term strategy focused on the pursuing growth prospect and capitalizing on market opportunities while considering ESG factors?
Oh, definitely. Who's paying the bigger dollar now? It's the Singaporeans, right? Simple. That's a simple answer. That if the market's bigger there, we go there. 1,000 Sing dollar is bigger than 3,000 ringgit now.
So do you have any contingency plan? What if, okay, Singapore is not really a long-term solution, for instance, let's say, hypothetically. So what is your contingency plan?
The contingency plan to what? Not implement the ESG or to implement the ESG?
To implement the ESG, of course. If after, which is then Singapore, so who else will be your perspective, which is clients?
Of course, I mean, the Singaporeans are far ahead there, and the Japanese are far ahead in terms of the ESGs, is what I shared with you. I believe countries moving ahead as well, for including China and whatnot, they are going to push for more stringent requirements in ESGs. And my opinion is the ESGs just bring larger hurdles for small medium enterprises to fight onto the global stage, right? Because the cost increase to do XYZ. It's all about scale. The bigger scale you are, the cheaper price it gets. And if you're a big scale doing ESGs, how are the small guys going to try to do it, right? So definitely, if we know that it's coming, why are we gonna hide under a rock like an ostrich and pretend it's not here?
Yeah, it's true, exactly. I realized that you mentioned about your clientele, like Singapore, like Japan, like China. It sounds like most of your clients is focused on the Asia Pacific region. So, would you like to tell us about the differences between the Asian, which is clients, and the European clients, or even the American clients? What are the differences actually, especially come towards of this ESG definition?
We don't supply to America, nor much to Europe. So I wouldn't be able to say there. But I think if you look in the perspective from multinational companies, which we do work with, the multinationals, they understand there is the European standard of this ESG is not fully rolled out yet. That's for sure. They understand that, and they understand that most companies based here will take time to fully comply with their requirement. Right? And every year they got a different focus, be it labor, be it environment, be it sustainability, and whatnot. There is nothing wrong there in that perspective. I think the Japanese, you'll be surprised that they're pushing far ahead. They're moving very fast on their ESGs. They're becoming more stringent. Even looking at labor laws, even they themselves with their long working hours, they want us to follow the ESG in terms of working hours. I don't know.
That's true.
That sounds a bit weird, right? Yeah, they're pushing it on us, but they themselves don't know whether they implement it.
Yeah, Japanese is like working like machine. I tell you,
Yeah,
they're just nonstop.
weird, right?
It's just a really,
And
really
they tell
hard
you, oh, by
working.
law in Japan we are allowed. So it's different, right?
Yeah, yes, you're right. Actually, okay, Kelvin, are you striving higher and pursuing ESG goals because they are the right thing to do for your employees? Just like talk about employee and customer and the world at large. And do you have the tools to align your strategy and business model accordingly?
I wouldn't say I have all the tools, but I have all the bootleg ways of doing it and having it done to a certain degree where our Singaporean customers like it and our multinational customers can accept it. I think a big one for most multinational today is about labor. The labor laws are important to them today. Set aside the environmental and their sustainability program. They're already doing it to a certain extent, right? The labor one is a big one. And the sheer fact we employ Malaysians, I think it's like 95. And actually, no, we're 99%. Even my security guard is Malaysian. Yeah, so we really, I mean, we are fortunate and blessed in that sense.
Okay, I just gone through some of the question from the audience. I think I see some of the question quite valid as well. Is responding to what we are discussing at the moment, and also is also reflection to the circular economy. So there's there is a one questions about circular economy. I like to see your view. Circular economy principle. How do you address the challenges of designing products and packaging for reuse and recycling, and how do you plan to influence consumer behavior in this regard?
This question is not a question that should be targeted to me, but I can answer it for you. In the sense of, we're too small to make that change, right? But what we can do, and what we do today, is we offer these packagings already available. Whatever's in next stock. As I was telling you, biodegradable bottles are what we're pushing now for plastic alternatives. Funny thing is, we take them out from China. Malaysia doesn't make them. Don't make them. I think the only guy I know that makes the recycled good stuff is the paper guys. They're doing the wheat husk and all that. And that's how we offer it to our customers at a slightly more higher price, because the Chinese are selling it to us higher. If you're talking about what that question is trying to push ahead, is the design of products and packaging to reuse and recycle. The biggest drivers of this are the multinationals, not us. And the reasons why the multinationals do this is because they can control the narrative to their customers. They can tell their customers why their product with big budget is better than this product, why this product sucks and this product kills the environment and Mother Earth, and why they should buy this multinational product. Right? That's what I believe. The biggest drivers are there.
Okay, let's look at the next question from the audience. Strategies to protect the integrity of your supply chain to avoid the risks associated with human rights violation and environmental damage, especially in region with weaker regulatory oversight.
Yeah, I think this question is very targeted towards labor-intensive industries, such as textiles. We don't do textiles. We manufacture, or we make, or we procure raw material. So if you talk about the raw material suppliers, how do we evaluate raw material suppliers? To make good quality raw material, it has to come from a person who has a certain degree of high quality coming out, right? You talk about drugs, you talk about vitamins and all that. The factory itself has to be competent enough to make those high quality items. And with that, they won't use cheap labor because cheap labor most likely will screw it up. So we don't face as big of an issue here versus the textile guys or the guys who make shoes or belts or whatnot, where it's very labor intensive, and we might not have the visibility required. Of course, with suppliers today, those who when we work with the big companies, they want us to have them sign off that they follow the labor law XYZ. They don't hire underage people, stuff like that. That does exist, but it depends. As I said, shared with you before, different industry, different problem.
Yeah, it's true. I check. Yeah, it's true. Okay, let's look at the next question from the audience here. The issues of hard recycled materials and products that often end out as environmental pollutants or waste, and what innovative solution are you exploring?
I think the big one now is actually sachet material. These type of sachets like this. You've seen this stuff. This packaging. There's actually 3 layers of plastic inside. Yeah,
Okay.
the aluminium is recyclable. I haven't found anyone that can make this material biodegradable. I think there's one guy in Europe who says his plastic is biodegradable and stuff. But there's a few things that need to go into it. If you talk about innovating this, I'm not going to innovate it. It costs too much money. I'm going to let the suppliers get forced into it. When Nestle forces them to do it, then we'll adopt it, right? Unless I want to do a startup and whatnot. But that's a different story. We understand our place. We understand our size. Why do you want to dump your money there and do this when there might not be a big taker for it, right?
Yes, you are making a point here. Okay, I think Kelvin, I think that was a good point you have made. That I think this is important. That how can we get around with the current practices of the ESG, especially not just the it's kind of idea of the phenomenon, but it's important that what bring a better livelihood for the company. I think that is a good point you have made, and also it's very straightforward. If my company cannot make money, so why should I think about that? Why should I go for that? I think the reality is, I think of course there's a balance between whether you do this for how many percentage or the other percentage as well, because I think we need to align not just only our own company, but it's also need to think about what is a current issue, especially the climate change. There's a lot of all these issues. It's not just come from that. It's a lot of all this company industry. So the way how they do work, operate. So actually it affects the entire which is global climate. But of course everyone has a point to look at that. But in the end, there is the way to strike the balance in between. Okay. All right. That's all the time we have today, Kelvin. Thank you very much for joining us, Kelvin. It is absolutely my pleasure as well as a privilege. Thank you, Kelvin.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Stephen. I really appreciate your time and having me on the show.
Right. Thank you, Kelvin. All right. So a little sharing here. Manufacturers must embrace sustainability, which is ESG. First point, there's a 2 point in this context here. Growing mandates ESG has given rise to groups such as manufacturers, which seeks to develop a single set of globally recognized practices and bring transparency to the the disclosure process. So, and the Green Practice Manufacturing Sector by MGTC, which is the Malaysian Green Technology and Climate Change Corporation of 2022, already has standard that mandate threshold for locally sources materials. So, for example, automotive manufacturers must use 75% local content to comply with My Hijau. Second point here is incorporating ESG practices. It may be challenging to incorporate ESG into the business model of a small provider, but many resources are available. Businesses looking to adopt ESG principle can often find guidance and assistance from industry association, governments, agencies, and non-profits. Large corporations are also typically willing to collaborate with suppliers to make changes. I believe the small suppliers must recognize the growing trend of ESG in business. Those who incorporate this principle in their business model can benefit from the increased competitiveness, cost saving, and a better reputation. Act now before it is too late. On that note, we will have to call it a day for this evening. And so for our technical master and ISUC circular economy cluster, the CE team, a thumbs up. From here, Spotlight Dialogue, series organized by Special Interest Group in Circular Economy from Integrated Sustainability and Urban Creativity Center at Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation, APU. Till then, take care and each other happy evening.